We'll now recognize Mr. Diaz for 5 minutes. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Huffman and honorable committee members. My name is David Diaz, El Monte resident, El Monte Union High School District Board President, and Executive Director of Active San Gabriel Valley, where our mission is to create a more sustainable, equitable, and livable San Gabriel Valley. We're also a member organization of Nature for All, a coalition of 12 organizations who have worked over 8 years on federal protections for the San Gabriel Mountains and watershed. I thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today in support of HR 2215, a bill supported by local community members, business, and local electeds that would help ensure recreational access for park-poor and pollution-burdened communities and protect our public lands, waters, and wildlife for today and for future generations. I'm here today to address issues that our families face in regards to accessing one of America's greatest assets, our public lands. Thankfully, HR 2215 seeks to address some of these challenges. I was born in Ensenada, Mexico, in the community, but I was born in Ensenada, Mexico, but raised in the communities of El Monte and South El Monte, California, where my parents worked multiple jobs to provide financial security and opportunity for our family. Nearly 1/3 of the children in these communities is considered obese, well above the national average of 18.5%. My childhood was no different. I was particularly attracted to public service and environmental justice because of my own experience growing up in a pollution-burdened concrete jungle. As a kid, I would characterize myself as obese, asthmatic, anxiety-riddled, with limited upward mobility opportunities and a lack of access to spaces like the San Gabriel Mountains. The lack of open spaces and access to public lands really compounds problems too often associated with low-income communities. The cities of El Monte and South El Monte are classified as top 5 disadvantaged communities in the state due to high levels of pollution, poverty, unemployment, coupled with low percentage of educational attainment and lack of park space for families. The stress of growing up in poverty, compounded with an unhealthy built environment, has created unprecedented levels of trauma for young people and families. It wasn't until my adult years where a family health scare motivated me to lose more than 100 pounds through recreation and nutrition. And now I've dedicated my career to improving the lives of my community. Inspired by my parents' work ethic, I was the first to go to college in my family and now hold a master's of public health from the Claremont Colleges. A growing body of research has found that greater exposure to nature is associated with better health and well-being. As executive director of Active San Gabriel Valley, we have led hundreds of families into the San Gabriel Mountains via a family-friendly event titled The Bike Train and organized multiple community hikes. These family-friendly recreation events are coupled with education about the San Gabriel Mountains area, highlighting how they account for 30% of LA's water supply, 70% of LA County's open space, and show families how to access this local treasure. I'm proud of the work we're doing, but we cannot solve this problem alone. We need a partnership approach to engaging and educating communities, preserving open space, and creating more access to parks and recreational opportunities. The San Gabriel Mountains Foothills and Protection Act would help ensure that over 15 million people that live within the region have access to healthy recreation opportunities by preserving the last places of the San Gabriel Mountains with wilderness, wild river, national monument designations, and establishing the San Gabriel National Recreation Area, a partnership to catalyze collaboration among federal, state, and local stakeholders. Our families in the San Gabriel Valley are being suffocated by the impacts of poverty, absent nature, and the overburden of pollution. We need more opportunities to breathe clean air, recreate, and coexist with our families and nature. I wholeheartedly believe this legislation will provide families with an opportunity to breathe clean air, recreate in nature, and create forever memories with their loved ones. Thank you again for hearing us today and the committee for the opportunity to testify before you today to address this important bill that would increase recreational access, but also mental health and well-being for park-poor and pollution-burdened communities. Thank you so much.
Chair, thank you very much. The chair now recognizes Mr. Lowenthal for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to begin by thanking you and Representative Chu and the very thoughtful colleague on to my left here, just on the dais, not politically, Representative Carbajal, for introducing their respective bills to protect important areas within California. As we all know, California is a beautiful place. It has the highest point in the lower 48 in the nation. It also has the lowest point in all of North America. It has the world's tallest, oldest, biggest trees. Because of this, there are areas within our state, such as the San Gabriel Mountains and the Trinity Alps, that if they were in any other state, they would have been granted by now, certainly, national park protection generations ago. But because they're in the same state as Death Valley, Joshua Tree, Kings Canyon, Redwood, Yosemite, just to name a few, these areas have to wait for protection that they deserve. And that's, again, why I'm so pleased that my colleagues have introduced this very important legislation. And California is a huge state in terms of population. So I want to talk to Mr. Diaz first. You know, in your testimony, you briefly mentioned how the stress of poverty compounded with an unhealthy built environment has created unprecedented levels of trauma and mental health issues for young people. You also talked about public health, or just health itself. So my question is, since much of these both mental health and public health, are due to the lack of open spaces and public lands in the region, can you speak to the benefits that open spaces and increased public lands also provide to communities? What are the benefits in terms of mental health and public health?
Yes, thank you for your question, Mr. Lowenthal. As mentioned, one of the ways that I was able to transform my life was through the adoption of a healthy lifestyle, which was mostly led by recreation and nutrition. I think, in particular, as it relates to the cities of South El Monte and El Monte, as referenced, to give you perspective, it's about 0.33 to 0.41 acres per 1,000 residents of available park space in these communities. And so, accounting that the San Gabriel Mountains are about 70% of Valley County's open space and have been severely underfunded and under-resourced, the potential for families and young people to actually be able to access public lands is going to be tremendous. I also mentioned that I am currently an elected official for the El Monte Unified School District Board of Trustees. I'm trying to find you over here. And so what we've seen is unprecedented levels of trauma and stress for children, young people, that have resulted in various things from ongoing anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, and most of that has been compounded by the lack of resources in that local community to be able to support young people. Someone mentioned our attachment to social media and technology now. The protection and expansion of a national recreation area and the San Gabriel National Monument would just be able to provide families with an opportunity to get away from all that. There's really a concrete jungle and absence of nature and clean air in our communities right now. So the impact of having access to public lands would be tremendous.
Mr. Diaz, I wanted to ask you, could you touch on a little bit of the value that these type of open spaces provide for urban populations, in particular low-income communities?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I started my career as a youth organizer for a nonprofit organization, and we would take hikes with youth, and now those young people have graduated high school, have gone off to college, but we still keep in touch. And so I'm able to see them be successful and thrive, via social media, funny enough, but they're on an often basis going off and recreating in nature. So really, these public lands provide ongoing opportunities for families to really connect and belong with each other. As mentioned in my statement, people are suffocating from the lack of clean air in our communities. Indoor, outdoor, it's all bad air quality. This gives them an opportunity to breathe clean air for a short period of time to be able to coexist y convivir with their family.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all the witnesses who came here today. Mr. Chair, I yield back.